All right, let's do it. Mics are on and everything.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Battle Hymnal here on this post Thanksgiving bliss. I hope that you are all experiencing. I am Nathan Lawrence, host of the co-host of the Battle Hymnal and co-host of Chapel Bell Curve, our sister podcast. We're here today to do a little film breakdown and preview of your Georgia Bulldogs' upcoming matchup against the Fighting Cocks or of USC Junior. Um, I don't even know. I don't know. It's low hanging fruit at this point. I just feel like it's so like making penis jokes about USC is just sort of boring. But so it's too easy, you know. All right, I'm joined today by my co-host Graham of Dog Sports fame, Graham Coffee at Dog Out West on Twitter and other places, and also Josh of Dog underscore Stats fame on Twitter, our intrepid producer who has spent a long time today avoiding doing, I'm sure, a bunch of chores and
Totally.
set up all of the technical aspects of this show today. So Josh, I know we got a pretty tight little rundown we want to go through here today. So you want to sort of like lead us into our first topic here?
All right. Well, if you join the Chapel Bell Curve Discord, you actually get to see some of these stats and we, I just basically compile a bunch of data from the SEC StatCat and also college football data. So what I've done is just we're going to throw up, and I'm going to show you a graph here of how similar and in terms of efficiency and productivity the two offenses that we're going to see tomorrow are. So if you can see that success rates, I mean, we're 12th and 13th in the league. EPA is almost identical. Actually, the South Carolina offense has got a little higher total EPA. Explosiveness is they're right there, all through this off the offense. Now, granted, this is the entire season, and we've all noted how inefficient some of our offensive plays have been. But even in the Mississippi State game, as high powered as it looked, it was still slightly inefficient. We only had a 37% success rate versus the Mississippi State Bulldogs, and are certainly that was dragged down by the 20% success rate on rushing the ball. So there's lots of room to improve, and I think that's what we all want to see out of this offense is with these last few games here that see what we got in store for next year. But you've noted some things I didn't bring up, Nathan, about that's a good running attack we're going to see tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the one hand, it has felt for the most of the year that Mike Bobo is in many ways kind of out of step with the current sort of zeitgeist of offensive football. Came into South Carolina at the beginning of the year saying that they were going to huddle and that when teams went up tempo, those were like cheap yards. So that's true. But on the other hand, they've been pretty successful running the ball. They have a legitimate running back. And they are what you expected out of Georgia circa 2012, right? And when it works, it looks pretty good. They have a good screen game. They are an actual downhill runner or a downhill. They're an actual downhill running team. Like they will go into 12 personnel. Kevin Harris is their main back. He can pound the rock. So in that sense, they're definitely going to be a huge change of pace from last week against Mississippi State and they have had a certain amount of success. They've been very explosive. I know we have some more breakdowns on play concepts, but they're running at a pretty good clip, and they've had some sort of unevenness at the quarterback. With Colin Hill coming in as a eighth year senior or whatever from Colorado State, but you can see in plays like this one. Like this is it's out of the shotgun certainly, but this is a sort of classic,
Inside zone,
run the
yeah.
ball downhill inside zone. And with those tight splits, this was sometimes a Mike Bobo thing, right? You run these like tight splits out of wide receivers, and a lot of time when Mike Bobo was at USC, those tight splits would be out of a like under the center. But you could see he's kind of doing a similar kind of thing, but just out of the shotgun. Graham, you got anything just to start us off here on the running game we're facing?
Yeah, well, I mean, Kevin Harris, as you've said, he's legit. I mean, he's leading the SEC in rushing, and I think he's played one less game than a lot of the guys that are up there with him. So he's definitely a great back. This will be the first time Georgia's seen a fullback in, I guess, since like playing Georgia Tech triple option teams. But more than anything, I think like there's probably some people watching this right now and they're seeing these clips and they're seeing that they're happening against like Ole Miss or LSU, and like neither of those teams have been very good on defense this year, granted, but Kevin Harris has like gotten tough yards on good defenses. Like he did his thing against Auburn. He's done this against almost everybody they've played. And really last week against Missouri, I think was the first time anybody's kind of been able to shut him down or contain him. So it'll be interesting to see like what slant Georgia takes with this. Last week we watched them play really soft zone defense against an air raid and just try and keep everything in front of them. I think we'll see the opposite of that this week more than likely.
Yeah. And we can. I think we kind of have some time to get into this later, but this is an offense that's missing. I think it's top 2 wide receivers this week. Shai Smith is officially out, so
Shai
I don't
Smith
know. And then what? Who's their second?
Hold on, sorry, I'll find it.
So I mean, regardless, they've switched to Dottie, who is a sort of a West Coast. He's out of California, I think. Freshman.
No, he's from Myrtle Beach, baby.
Yeah, that's
Myrtle
right.
Beach. Wow. He's got.
How did the Chanticleers miss on him?
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, I can't
so he's out of like what? He's out of white trash, California. He
Hey now, we love the Grand Strand on the Battle Hymnal. Okay.
No, I mean I'm into it. But he's shown some flashes of stuff, and I think he's probably going to be a pretty effective quarterback at some point. But it doesn't seem like there's a lot of weapons to be had in this Gamecocks offense in the passing game, and so I expect that we're going to see just a steady dose of that running game. And I think it really comes down to like, and we talked about it at the beginning of the year about prepping for next year. This is a really good test to see what do we have in the absence of Jordan Davis, because plays like this. When this is Devontae Wyatt just made that play, but Jordan Davis set it up. Similar thing here, right? You're going to see Davis just stones his guy at the line of scrimmage, and the play goes in that direction. So Zion Logue is going to have his work cut out from him. This is a cut up of our inside zone stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So this is all inside zone. This is stuff that I mean, Georgia's seen this all year, and Malik Herring's been very effective against it. But I think it's really started with Davis up front.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Devontae Wyatt. We'll have to see. I mean, I think like this is a good opportunity for him to assert himself along with Carter. But I think the most interesting thing about Doty is like he is I'm 99.9% sure he's the highest rated quarterback recruit South Carolina's ever signed. He was the number 2 dual threat quarterback in the nation last year. So I mean, like he's a legit talent.
That's because they missed on Jackson Muschamp. Before I'm going to keep up the Doty plays, but I wanted to talk because Nathan and I were talking pre-show, and they have the most explosive rushing offense in the SEC. I mean, their total EPA is right there on the rushing EPAs at number 3. So you can see that they're not that much more efficient running the ball in terms of success rate against as opposed to Georgia, but they're much more explosive. And I know we keep throwing these numbers around, and some of you understand them, some of you don't. I'm not sure I understand them all the time, but you can't look at success rate without looking at explosiveness. You can't look at explosive without success rate, because efficiency is a combination of both of those. You want a high success rate, somewhere above 41, 42, 43% rushing the ball, but you also want explosiveness. And Georgia hasn't had explosive runs the last 2 years. So that's what South Carolina is bringing tomorrow.
And if you look there, I think we have something in the notes about this, but if you look at like a play like the inside zone, which is the bread and butter of both of these teams on the ground, South Carolina has a lower success rate, but a higher average yards per carry. And they also have a higher explosiveness rate. So what that tells me is that it's not, when we say that a team is more explosive in that sense, we're not just saying they get bigger runs. We're saying when they have big runs, they go farther, right? How many times have we seen Georgia the past couple of years have like 25 runs that didn't score touchdowns, 25-yard runs, or 45-yard runs that ended at the 20? Right. So, what you saw even in those Kevin Harris clips was that like Kevin Harris has finished the drill this year in terms of like when he goes deep, he scores. Right. And what were you going to say?
No, well, I mean, I think this is a strength on strength battle, right? Like, in addition to the stats that you have there, Josh, like Georgia SEC StatCat did a data dump earlier today, and there was a few things that stuck out to me. So, SEC defenses that average the lowest yards after contact. Number one is Georgia, 1.85 yards after contact. Ironically enough, number two is Mississippi State, who we saw last week. SEC defenses with the lowest missed tackle rate against the run. Number one is Georgia. Actually, number two is South Carolina. So that'll be something to watch for. And then SEC defenses that average the lowest rush yards before contact is Georgia. So we're allowing the least yards before contact and after contact. So in essence, we're defending the run really well. But like it's going to be very interesting in this game. Just to, I mean, like Bobo, say what you want about him, but Bobo recognizes tendencies, and he's pretty tricky with how he tries to exploit them. And like, if I was him, I would wheel route our linebackers to death until somebody proves they can cover it with his running backs and tight ends out. So it's going to be interesting, just because like I think that like Shi Smith is out, and so is their number two receiver, but Doty scares me a little bit because like he brings a legit running threat to their offense, and we haven't really seen like a true dual threat this year yet. The question is like, is he more, Bo Nix, where he's going to scramble and avoid sacks, but ultimately like he's not going to make plays, or is he more of a guy that's like truly going to try and run a zone read, and he's going to take off and get large chunks of yardage on the ground? Because like if he can do that, I actually think that like we saw last week and like we saw against Kentucky, they can have some long drives and kill the clock and eat 2/3 of a quarter on one drive. And if they do that, this game will be way more stressful than any of us want it to be.
Yeah. I mean, I think ultimately, if I was going to be sort of cynical about Mike Bobo, I would say there's a pretty good chance he throws himself out of this game. The tendency when Mike Bobo was at UGA is that if he's down by 10, he's going to start throwing the shit out of the ball. And I feel like this is a game that just because of who the coach is, that if UGA gets up by 17, we might just coast to victory because he's just going to start throwing the ball all the time, and because that's what he's done consistently, even when he had a hot hand.
Well, it was noted that Georgia is the last in rush percentage faced on defense. So the book is out that, yes, I mean, I think they're not necessarily throwing the ball over the top or anything. They're just taking those underneath passes and those short passes and challenging the linebackers in coverage, which we've all noted. So it's interesting that how tempted that Coach Bobo might get on those plays.
I have a little bit of an anxiety about this game, but if I have any amount of confidence, it's that Kirby Smart has proven that if you like, Mike Bobo is going to play the game Kirby Smart wants him to, right? Like we're going to have 4 linebackers in the game the entire game. Everybody's going to be coming downhill. We're going to be disguising coverages on a freshman quarterback. We're probably going to blitz the crap out of him. We're going to keep a bunch of dudes into like sort of zone read him or whatever. But like, this is a game that Georgia should win, right? Because ultimately, whatever Doty does, their defense has just not been good this year. And I mean, they've had some areas where they've shined, but they have been carved up pretty consistently, especially in the run game.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I mean, I think like just going through their schedule, right? Like any team that they've played that's had a legit passing threat has had success against them. I mean, Tennessee put up 27 points on them. Auburn lost to them, but that was kind of before Bo Nix turned that corner. I mean, LSU put up 52 points on them with a quarterback that was making his first career start. So
we have some.
Ole Miss put up 59 on them. Like I think 2 weeks ago, before JT Daniels was under center, like this would be a very losable game for Georgia. But like all Georgia really has to do is just establish the pass as a threat. And I think we'll see a much better running performance out of Georgia than we did against Mississippi State. Sorry,
no, it's okay. Speaking of USC's defense, I think we have some flood concept stuff. That flood concept is something that UGA, we've talked about it before. Todd Monken loves this concept. It's just a vintage. Well, it's an air raid passing concept, but it's just a very popular concept at every level of football. And you'll see it'll run basically usually three routes to one side at 3 levels, and So you're sort of flooding one side of the field. And what you'll see is a lot of times the sort of go-to route is the one at the mid level, whether that's an out route or an in route. It just depends. And you'll see like there have been holes in coverage on these plays against South Carolina. And this makes you feel good because Georgia has hit some of these pretty consistently. And so, yeah, we can see here, this is from last game. Was this the Pickens touchdown?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so this is like a sort of a compact flood because you're running 3 levels in about 10 yards instead of 30. But still, this is this is something that UGA has done well. And I think that this is the kind of play that JT Daniels can almost read this play in his sleep. This is a play this is not a new concept for him. You can see this is what Stetson did it. We even had some success here with it. I think we're going to run this one with the third wide receiver coming across the formation. Yeah, here we go. But still, I mean, this is something that UGA has been able to do. And I think it's something that there are things about this game that worry me, especially about our defense with Davis being out. But I think that, we're probably going to see a couple of mistakes from JT Daniels just because he's almost due. I mean, he very well may throw a pick, but I think the offense is going to continue to probably look a little bit more competent than it has in the past this week. There's no reason it shouldn't anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I think above all, like South Carolina's defensive backs have been really bad this year. And, with Pickens in the lineup and Kyrus and Burton, like that 3-headed monster coupled with McKitty and Washington at tight end, and then even D-Rob too. Like it wouldn't shock me to see D-Rob maybe like burn them deep on a bomb.
Absolutely.
This should be like a game that Georgia wins comfortably. It's South Carolina, and on top of that, it's the Bobo Bowl. So there's probably going to be some weird shit that happens because like every time we go to Williams-Brice, there's just always kind of that moment in the game where it feels like it's slipping away. The good news for all of us though is that like Georgia's already lost the division title. So there should be less anxiety even if this game does feel close or nerve-wracking at some point because it's not a meaningless game. Like it's an important game for Georgia to get good. And I mean, I also think like what you said earlier is really key, Nathan. Chances are Jordan Davis is not going to be on the football team next year. He's probably going to be in the NFL. So like Georgia needs to figure out how to deal with life after Jordan Davis because of any defensive player I think that we've seen at Georgia in a long time, the difference between him in the lineup and without him in the lineup has been really dramatic.
Well, it might literally have been since Geno Atkins that we've had a interior defensive lineman who's been this consistently dominant. And I think it's a similar thing with Geno who I said that like I was his friend. I met him a few times, but it's still the thing with Atkins where we didn't really, I don't think that people outside of sort of the CBC bubble that we live in, where we constantly love on Jordan Davis and how much we adore him, I don't think the general football fan understands how important he's been to our success over the past 2 years. I mean, I think it's more complicated than this, but schematically, it's pretty much as simple as Jordan Davis takes at least one man to block him, and on most plays he takes 2. And you can kind of design an entire defense around that when that guy is your interior defensive lineman, right? And so I think it's going to be important. I mean, Zion Logue, Jalen Carter is probably not, like 1-for-1 just because he plays a slightly different position, or he probably will. But Zion Logue, I mean, he's a guy that needs to step up. And I mean, you got to say that certainly there's been some criticism of Trey Scott about, his sort of the way he's recruited. But I mean, his development of these mid-tier defensive linemen and even 4-star defensive linemen has been excellent over the past few years. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see what that looks like going forward. I mean, what's y'all's? I'm not going to ask for like a straight up pick here. I think we all think Georgia's going to win this game. I think it's currently at 21.5. What are we? How are we feeling here? Like cover, not cover, loss? Like where's our head at?
I think naturally because it's South Carolina, and especially because of how things went against South Carolina last year, like I feel like this is just going to be a struggle, but like with JC Horn out and uh, their other top corner out, and then looks like possibly their top two wide receivers out, and then I don't know how many of these guys are out for the game, but Bobo said at one point this week they were practicing without 16 of the 16 scholarship players on defense. Like we just went through that with Mississippi State last week, so don't get me wrong, like anything can happen, but this kind of feels like a game that like Georgia is going to get out, throw the ball a little bit, open up the run, and should just be able to like kind of run away from South Carolina and hide. Like I don't think it's going to be a 41-3 like historic ass whooping, but I think it'll be I would predict a 17-24 point win. Sounds right. I will go with South Carolina covering the spread just because this Georgia team has been really shitty against the spread as of late.
Thoughts, Josh? Can you hear him?
I can't hear him.
Oh, Josh, you're muted. You muted yourself on mute, on meet. It's coming through.
I'm not getting
I'm not either. He muted himself on the actual meet. I think he's probably still going out.
No.
There we go.
All right. So nothing like great radio. All right. Go ahead.
All right. So I mean, I feel like we're gonna have a hard time. I think it's gonna be lower. I think they're gonna South Carolina's gonna cover the spread because I think that the only way they can win the game is to rush the ball on us, and I just think that's going to lead to lower possession. And I think we're going to get up some drives. I don't think there's going to be enough drives and enough plays and enough stops for us to rack up 21 on them. I think we win. I think we win decisively, but I think it's going to be like a 30-17, 24-13, something like that kind of game. So, but I do look for us to rush the ball a little bit, and I think that JD has another good game, but I don't think it's going to be nor hopefully it won't be needed to be as prolific passing the ball. So, it's sub 400 yards, unfortunately, is my prediction.
I think this is a game that Georgia's probably going to win comfortably. I don't. I think we'll be close to covering. I'm not sure if we'll quite cover. I think that having sort of peripherally brushed up against the inside of a college football program, I know that loss last year seems like it's far away for us, but I can promise you that it does not seem like it's far away for this team.
Yeah.
And coming from 2019 to 2020, it seems a little weird to have like a revenge game on your mind, but that game ended UGA season functionally last year. And there's a lot it feels like that game was about 10 decades ago. But that's a century. What am I saying? It feels like that game was a long time ago, but you can be sure that it's been running. The clips of the interception and the pick six and the blocked field goal have been running at Buttsmere and in the practice facility all week. I think this is a game where Georgia has more of a reason to play than most teams do at this point this year. If only it's just because they're pissy. So I feel pretty confident that we'll get full effort. And I think in a game between these two teams where everybody gives full effort, it's probably a pretty comfortable win.
Yeah.
I think one thing that's like a question we should ask ourselves, because I think we've all sat here and said like, oh, Georgia's going to want to run the ball. We're going to want to run the ball. But like, if you look at every team that's had a competent pass attack against South Carolina has put up 40 this year. And so I'm kind of curious if like we're just going to come out, especially without JC Horn on the field, and just bombs away a little bit. But if you're a Georgia fan, like I don't want to start the conspiracy or anything like that, but like I think you'd much rather see JT Daniels have like maybe a 250, 270 yard day than like a 400 yard thing where it starts building this hype of him as a potential.
I want to throw up a little anecdote. I know we got a tight show here, but I want to throw this one thing up about that. Everybody's going gaga over that game. I think it was Pete Thamel on the Yahoo podcast was talking about when he was talking to an NFL scout about Cam Newton and that Heisman year that massive year he had with Auburn, where they only had like 7 plays that NFL scouts where he passed the ball, that were quality plays that they could actually judge his NFL capability. So everyone's projecting him. Not everyone. People are projecting him number 1. There is no way that he had maybe one play. There's not a player on Mississippi State that's an NFL quality player. So that's the numbers Gaga numbers don't matter. It matters against when you do it against quality cornerbacks, quality safeties, and quality, pass rush, which Georgia's not going to see this year. So I don't think.
Do you want to hear my like hottest take here? And I agree. I don't think he's going.
Absolutely.
I actually think like Georgia sort of owes Justin Fields twice over. And before you like send a mail bomb to me, hopefully you don't know.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
One, I think that Kirby Smart knows that he mishandled the Justin Fields situation at this point. He's not an idiot. Like it wasn't handled well, and I think he understands.
Yeah.
2, and I think that Kirby Smart pre Justin Fields may not get both of those guys who came in after a transfer, right? 2, I think Justin Fields is going to be, and Trevor Lawrence are part of the reason why he's not going out this year. Like if you're him, I mean, you definitely are not getting drafted ahead of Justin Fields or Trevor Lawrence. Are you getting drafted ahead of the guy at, the guy at Utah State or BYU rather?
BYU, North Dakota State's got a
Dakota State. Like if you could reliably say, oh, you're going to get picked 29th in the draft and be the backup on a good team, that's fine. Like take that. But like, I don't even know that at this point with the way the draft sort of strategy plays that he can even count on that. Right. And the track record of dudes drafted after the 2nd and 3rd round, like it's not great. And so he seems like a pretty savvy kid. And you never know when people start getting in his ear what's going to happen, but it just doesn't seem likely to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's also actually a really fascinating stat out there that like, I don't think there's ever been a quarterback to win a Super Bowl that's had less than it's either 20 or 25 starts in college. So, I mean, like, Daniels played 11 games at USC. There's not a large body of work, as you were saying, Josh, but I think the other fascinating thing is like, I would imagine you guys saw the AJC post this week of, JT Daniels is projected as the number 16 pick in the CBS mock draft. That draft had him at number 16 as the 6th quarterback taken. So the 6th quarterback taken in the draft last year was actually Jacob Eason. And the difference between what he made as a signing bonus, which was about $250,000, and what the number 16 pick in the draft made, which was about $10 million, is a lot of money. But I think the biggest thing is like what you said, Nathan. Next year, the other stud right now that's projected to go to the NFL draft next year is Sam Howell. And honestly, he hasn't played super great as of late. So if you wait a year, you're probably a guaranteed like top 3 quarterback taken in the draft.
Yeah.
Also,
and you're also,
you think.
Yeah, I mean, and also if you look, I mean, these kids are not all businessmen. Like, I think he knows that if he comes back, like every one of these guys at his level is absolutely, and I hate this term because it totally does not, it's not the way psychology or biology works, but they are alpha personalities. Like they believe their own BS. You could conservatively say that if JT Daniels comes back, UJ's got a shot at a title next year. But if you're JT Daniels, you now need to be conservative about that, because the reason that you're as good as you are is that you believe in yourself, right? So I think there's also an argument to be made that like JT Daniels could probably win Georgia its first championship in 41 years or whatever. And I think there's going to be a recruiting meeting that goes on, just like the recruiting meeting that Kirby Smart had when JT Daniels came here in January. And I think that everything we're talking about is going to come up.
Go Dogs.
Anyway,
no,
go Dogs. If we're just, I'm trying to like contain myself because I am by nature a real cynic of a person about stuff like this. But like, if Georgia is just mediocre in defensively next year, and they stay healthy, and Kirby Smart stays out of the way, like
I'm excited.
I mean, they should go to the CFP. Like they should.
Yeah, that's all. That's about injuries too.
And if you, I mean, like, even if you lose that first post Trevor game against Clemson, even if you lose that game, and you go 11-1, and I don't know, man. It's just
you heard it here, guys. We're going 11-1 next year.
Well, I mean, you don't have Bama on the schedule. Well, I mean, I don't think we even know what the rest of opponents next year are, but it's not going to be Bama. You know, I do think there's like a really good argument to be made of Georgia. Like the floor for Georgia next year being Eastern Division title.
It should be that. It should be that way every year.
So right now, your cross division. This is probably going to change, but right now you have Clemson, UAB, Florida. That's bizarre. Oh no, these are not in the correct order. So hold on. You're playing Clemson, UAB, Florida, Charleston Southern, Georgia Tech, and then you're playing. So the currently scheduled cross division was Arkansas, but that got flipped.
Right.
So it's going to be somebody replacing Arkansas. It's not going to be Alabama because you just played them. You're not going to take Auburn, who's probably the second best team in that division. So even if you get Ole Miss and you have to deal with that offense, I mean, Lord knows Lane Kiffin could be the coach at Texas at that point. So you got to feel pretty good about it.
Well, I mean, we're probably due to see LSU again, if anything. I mean,
boy, man. And who even knows where there's going to be with all this Title IX stuff?
Yeah, that's true.
Seriously, they might not have a president of the school, much less a football coach.
Yeah. All right. So bold prediction, or two bold predictions I have for tomorrow. One is that we are going to see a fullback screen for the first time in a game Georgia was playing in. I don't know how long.
It's a beauty.
It's going to be from South Carolina, not from Georgia.
I know, but it's still a thing of it. 2015.
Yeah, it is. It's gorgeous. Just watch it in the wild. Just look at that big man in open space and revel in it. Number two, I know this is a bad thing for us, but I predict that we're going to see like one of those Bobo kind of like bullshit quarterback runs that he used to do with Stafford when he was a freshman, or occasionally like Aaron Murray in the Tennessee game where he ripped off that 57-yard run. So I think we might see like a naked bootleg from Doty in short yardage for a big gain, or I'm sure we'll see at least a couple attempted quarterback draws, but I think we'll see like one like Mike Bobo bullshit touchdown that will remind us like why he was good, but also kind of why we hated him, because he would do bullshit like that, like on the 1 yard line after an interception when Todd Gurley's your running back. So it should be fun.
So sad.
I mean,
I do not miss him, but I just want everyone to like watch that game tomorrow, because there will be at least one, if not multiple moments that make you really appreciate Todd Monken.
Yeah. Because for every like quick fullback give on 3rd and short that works, there's going to be like a screen on 3rd and 30.
Yeah. Or an end around on 3rd and 1 to,
or just like a traditional West Coast pass play on 2nd and 4. Oh my God. Anyway,
all right. My bold prediction is that Camarda gets a successful fake punt.
Ooh,
that's pretty spicy, bud. That's pretty spicy. All right, guys. Well, listen, this has been the Battle Hymnal. I am Nathan J. Lawrence. That is Josh Hanser, and that is Graham Coffey. If you like what you heard here today, we encourage you to follow us on Twitter. I'm at Nathan J. Lawrence. Josh is at dog_stats, and Graham is at dog out west. We'd also love if you followed our Twitter accounts for these two shows, at the Battle Hymnal and at Chapel Bell Curve. Chapel Bell Curve is our sister podcast product. You can also find what we just did here today on the Chapel Bell Curve feed, anywhere you find podcasts are served, including Spotify. If you would like to get in contact with us, you can hit us up on Twitter, or you can hit us at chapelbellcurve@gmail.com. If you want to just support us and support a good cause and joined an awesome community that has gotten, I can say for me, and I think for both of these other guys on this call, gotten us through 2020 in a little bit better place than we would have been. You can hit us up at our Patreon at patreon.com/Chapel Bell Curve. $1 a month gets you access to our Discord server, which is just a great community of people who want to talk about whatever you want to talk about. I spent like an hour on there playing video games today. So we would encourage you to come join. We think it's going to be great. We have some plans for it going forward into 2021. And we'd love to see you. So we will catch you this weekend, probably in Atlanta, Athens, and Durango. But if you are unlucky enough to have to go to Williams-Brice, I guess we'll catch you there as well. But until then, go Dogs.
Go Dogs.